Well, it looks as if our heroes have finally melted the myth of the abominable snowman. The awesome creature turned out to be the two moon men, Gidney and Cloyd, in disguise.
I thought it would be a funny joke.
Funny? It was a panic.
But when the moon men learned that Rocky and Bullwinkle were going to return the mooseberry bush to the USA, their faces fell.
That means we can't make the rocket fuel from it. And we'll never get to go home again.
It was then that Rocky made his decision.
Bullwinkle, I'm going to send Gidney and Cloyd back to the moon.
And let down the entire US of A?
No, wait. I got a plan. But first we have to get back home.
Well, that was easier said than done, for at that moment their nemesis, Boris Badenov, was receiving his latest set of instructions right across the head.
So you have failed again, Badenov.
But fearless leader, the snowman
You
was
left your post.
100 feet high.
Deserted in face of enemy.
3 sets of teeth.
Didn't get mooseberries.
All sharp.
Didn't get rid of moose and squirrel.
Like razor blade. Hit me with that last one again.
Didn't get rid of moose and squirrel.
But we did.
Boris.
Shut up, Natasha.
You got rid of moose and squirrel?
Would I forget such a thing? I might be coward, turncoat, double-crosser, but I'm not sloppy.
They are kaput?
Of course.
But Boris.
Natasha, we left them with snowmen. What do you think happened to them? That's right.
If moose and squirrel were still alive, your life wouldn't be worth a plugged kopeck.
Of course.
Good job, Badenov. Have cigar.
Thank you, fearless leader.
You can call me FL.
And the triumphant Boris and Natasha made their way to the exit of the underground headquarters of Central Control.
Push up manhole cover, darling.
I can't. Somebody's standing on it.
Hey, you got the hiccups, Bullwinkle?
No, must be an earthquake.
Boris, you hear that?
Is the moose that indestructible nitwit?
Something wrong, Badenov?
No, not at all, they fell.
Then open manhole.
Is somebody standing on it? Let's wait till later, eh? How about next summer?
Out of way, Badenov. I open it.
And open it he did, for at that time Bullwinkle was no longer standing on the cover.
This is your idea of joke, Badenov?
Of course not, they fell.
Fearless leader to you, Badenov.
Yes, fearless leader.
And give me my cigar.
And the head of the spy ring made his exit, leaving a badly shaken Boris.
What's going to happen if he sees moose and squirrel alive?
Well, you're in hot water again, darling.
I'm always in hot water. I'm beginning to feel like teabag. Oh, Natasha, why I couldn't be a successful villain?
Cheer up, Boris. To me, you will always be a dirty, double-crossing skunk.
Oh, Natasha, you always know the right thing to say.
Meanwhile, our heroes were having their own troubles.
We want 4 tickets on the first boat leaving Pennsylvania.
All right, what's so doggone hilarious?
You crazy fools! Everybody wants to leave Pennsylvania.
Sure enough, every dock, airport, and train station was simply jammed with people trying to get out of Pennsylvania. And they were all ahead of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Doggone it, first they say, Yankee go home, then they won't let us leave.
Well, it looks as if our heroes are in Pennsylvania to stay. Be sure to see our next episode, The Pennsylvania Permanent, or I've Grown Accustomed to the Place.
And now...
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto! Ooh, don't know my own strength.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
Once upon a time, there was an easel painter. He was a good painter and made a modest living for his wife and himself. All was well except for one thing. The painter didn't want to be a painter. He wanted to be a shoemaker.
I am drudging my way through life. I want to do something creative.
Such as?
Who are you?
We're elves, obviously. We always considered painting creative.
You call that creative, elves? I'll tell you creative. Making shoes, that's creative. Something for the feet. Something that lives. Something to last throughout eternity. Shoes that sing.
You mean you want to go down in history like Herman Cappuccino?
Herman Cappuccino?
Herman Cappuccino, just the greatest little shoemaker that ever lived.
When Hannibal crossed the Alps, whose shoes do you think he was wearing?
Herman's?
Herman Cappuccino.
Ooh. Tell me, elf, how could I be a famous shoemaker like Herman Cappuccino?
You gotta suffer. You gotta spend time on the left bank in Paris.
Study. Visit the shoe stores.
And all true shoemakers gotta suffer.
And so, that night, the painter told his wife of his plan to become a shoemaker. His wife said,
Shoemakers are not made, they are born. Why don't you forget it and go back to something sensible like painting?
9. Even 10. Anybody can paint. I want to sit in cafes, discuss shoe exhibitions, make shoes in a garret, and above all, suffer.
So, the painter left for Paris, leaving his wife to shift for herself. He entered the famous school, the Beaux Chasseurs, and spent months working from models. Then he made 15th century shoes, 16th century shoes, 17th century shoes, 18th century shoes. He made rabbit shoes, snake shoes, and kangaroo shoes. He even made high button shoes, low button shoes, even horseshoes. He made walking shoes, running shoes, sneaky shoes, squeaky shoes, but alas, he made no singing shoes.
If only I could make a shoe that sings of spring, of love. How could I make a shoe with a soul?
You gotta travel. Absorb different countries' culture.
Yes, suffer.
Not suffer, travel. Get with it, will you?
Yeah, that's it, travel.
So the painter went to Italy, Switzerland, Holland, and he made Italian shoes, Swiss shoes, Dutch shoes. But alas, he made no singing shoes. Then, one night, after he returned to Paris, he heard the most beautiful music. He followed the lovely sound, and there, in a bundle of rags, was a singing shoe.
That is truly a shoe with a soul.
What? I hope to tell you it's got a soul.
I must have that shoe.
Now, wait.
A fine way to act.
I just wanted to know where he bought them.
We could have told you that. He bought them in Elvesville.
Elvesville? Why, that's my hometown. What am I doing suffering around Europe when I could be home learning to make shoes that sing?
So the painter left for the town from whence he had come, Elvesville. He found that everyone in Elvesville was wearing the same exquisite shoes that he had found in the bundle of rags.
Where did you buy those exquisite shoes?
2311 South Budlaw. You turn left at the next...
You don't have to tell me. That's my house.
And sure enough, when the painter got home, he found the walls of his cottage lined with exquisite shoes, all singing merrily away. And who did he find sitting behind the cobbler's bench but his wife?
Why didn't you tell me you made exquisite singing shoes?
You never asked me.
So, from that day on, the painter went back to his easel. Eventually, it happened that his paintings started selling like hotcakes, and he became a very famous painter indeed, and his paintings hung in all the famous museums in Europe. But he never did become a shoemaker, and he had to be content with just being a very wealthy man.
Which just goes to prove everybody can't be a Herman Cappuccino.
Yeah. Whatever that means.
Time for Bullwinkle's Corner. Today's poem is a ballad of the war between the states. Barbara Fritchie. The spires of Frederick usually stand green-walled by the hills of Maryland. But the town was deserted that autumn day, 'cause Confederate troops were on the way. But there old Barbara Fritchie sat. Her Union heart was loyal yet. Then up the street came the fearsome call.
You Stonewall Boris! Hi, you all!
Under his slouch hat left and right he glanced, then saw a wondrous sight.
Oh, boy!
Quick as it fell from the clothesline there, Dame Barbara snatched her underwear. Shoot if you must this old gray head, but spare my Union suit, she said.
Foolish girl!
Hold it, Stonewall! Who touches a hair of my gray head dies like a dog. March on, I said. I may be patriotic, but I'm not crazy.
Hello there, Peabody and Sherman here. Today, through the magic of my Wayback Machine, Sherman and I will become acquainted with that eminent Scandinavian inventor, Alfred Nobel.
Isn't he the man who invented prizes, Mr. Peabody?
No, Sherman. Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. Set the way back for Italy.
And the year?
1863. As usual, the Wayback took us way back instantly, and there we were standing before a quaint little Italian villa. I believe this is the Nobel residence, Sherman.
How can you tell, Mr. Peabody?
Sherman's question needed no further answer. Inside the smoke-filled structure, we found Alfred Nobel in what was left of his laboratory.
Are you all right, Mr. Nobel?
Yes, sure, I'm fine.
I assume, sir, you've been conducting an experiment on high explosives.
Oh, yes, sure. It's a little thing I call nitroglycerin.
I guess you'll have to give it up now that your laboratory's ruined.
Oh, no, on the contrary.
He led us into an adjoining room. This one, too, contained a laboratory. A new one.
You wouldn't believe this, but at one time this place consisted of 87 laboratories.
This little villa?
This little villa was once a huge estate. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll get on with my work. I'm expecting the mess here in exactly 1 hour.
The mess?
MESS, the mechanical engineers of Sardinia and Sicily. If I can prove that nitroglycerin is as powerful as I think it is, then by golly, I've got it made. Oops.
Careful, Mr. Nobel. You almost had another explosion.
Sorry, it must be the light in here.
So saying, the great inventor struck a match and lit what appeared to be a candle.
There, that's better. More light on the subject. Now, where was I?
You'll have to forgive this interruption, sir, but the candle...
What about the candle?
Well, if your candle maker's initials aren't TNT, then I suggest this candle isn't a candle at all.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I know a candle when I see one. Come outside, I prove it to you.
We adjourned to the front lawn.
Now, the candle is still in my laboratory, correct?
Correct.
And if it were TNT, it would blow up, also correct?
Also correct.
Well, it hasn't blown up yet. Therefore, I think I can safely state without the least bit of hesitation that what you assume to be a stick of TNT is in reality a stick of TNT.
Fortunately, Mr. Nobel had a few more laboratories left. And this time, Sherman and I kept a constant vigil on the great man. Working feverishly, he concluded his experiment just as the mess delegation arrived.
And you say this stuff is more powerful than garlic?
Far more powerful, sir.
This we got to see. Proceed me the test.
The test was a simple one. 200 yards from Nobel's villa stood a dilapidated shack. The nitroglycerin sat on its dusty floor. Back at the laboratory, Sherman and I awaited the historic moment.
The rest is child's play. I merely press this button, and the shack becomes non-existent. I'm sure those gentlemen will be highly impressed.
By the way, where are they?
At the best possible vantage point, in the shack.
And with that, he calmly pressed the button.
Did I say in the shack?
Oh, my gosh, there's going to be a disaster.
Good gravy, this is going to ruin me.
Calm yourselves, please. If you'll notice, the shack is still standing.
How could it be? Something must have gone wrong. I mean right.
It's very simple. It takes electricity to set off the nitroglycerin, doesn't it?
Of course it does. Why?
Because I took the precaution of removing this fuse, thereby cutting off the electricity. And now, Sherman, if you'll ask those gentlemen to view the test from a safer distance, we'll get on with it. Well, as you can see, the test was immensely successful.
Without your help, it would not have been possible. Goodbye, good luck, and please accept this as a token of my gratitude.
And so we bid Alfred Nobel a fond and not too reluctant goodbye. Later at my penthouse apartment...
What was it Mr. Nobel gave you, Mr. Peabody?
The Nobel Prize, Sherman. But, of course, I gave him something, too.
Really? What?
What else? The Peabody Award.
Last time, you remember, our heroes and the Moon Men discovered that they couldn't leave Pottsylvania because everybody else in the country wanted to get out, too. As a result, our boys found themselves at the end of a waiting line a mile long.
But why do all these people want to leave?
Why are you going?
Well, let's be nice and say we just despise the place.
So do they.
Well, when's the next train leave?
Hard to tell.
Why?
Somebody stole the tracks.
Gee, this looks bad, Rocky.
You mean we're stuck here in Pottsylvania?
Gee, how are we ever gonna get out?
Look there! That's how!
Tick-tock taxi company, 2 drivers, no waiting.
Oh, boy, a taxi cab! Quick, climb in! I wonder why they call this the Tick-tock Taxi Company.
Rocky wouldn't have asked if he'd been able to see under the back seat, for the entire rear of the taxi was one big time bomb. Oh, who could have played such a fiendish trick on our friend?
2 guesses.
Well, it looks as if Boris and Natasha are really in the driver's seat at last.
But not for long.
How come we're stopping, Rocky?
I don't know. Hey, what's the trouble?
We got split king bolt in manifold housing.
That's bad?
Bad! If we don't get a new one, we'll strip the sleeve bushing right down to the gasket seal.
Yeah, that happened to an uncle of mine once.
Well, how long will it take to get a new one?
All depends, but don't worry. You won't have to wait long. Come on, Spike.
And the 2 spies sped off down the road, leaving our friends gathered around that highly explosive taxi.
Hey, what's that ticking sound?
Must be the taxi meter.
What taxi meter?
Oh, come now, Gidney. Every taxi has a meter.
Not this one.
Of course it does. And we gotta turn it off.
Yeah, or this ride'll cost us a fortune.
Must be here somewhere.
It's not in front, Bullwinkle.
Not in here either.
When it goes off, Boris.
Any second now.
It's not underneath, Rocky.
Not in the trunk, neither.
But I can still hear it ticking.
Well, I give up.
Bullwinkle, look out!
Too late. Bullwinkle's weight had started the taxi running back down the road, and as our friends watched, it careened out of sight behind a hill. An instant later, there was a tremendous explosion, followed by a cloud of black smoke, followed by Boris and Natasha.
Bullwinkle, the taxi cab exploded. You know what that means?
Yeah, it means we'll never know how much we owe.
No, it means somebody's out to get us.
But why? We haven't done anything.
Maybe that's the trouble.
Well, anyway, we're stuck here in Pottsylvania again.
Not necessarily, Rocky. Look there.
Sure enough, a little farther ahead, a sentry stood guard beside a barrier that stretched across the road.
Oh, boy, a railroad station.
No, Bullwinkle, that's the border.
I was wondering where the tracks were. But who's that feller with the gun?
That's a sentry.
Boy, he sure needs a haircut.
That's his hat.
Well, he certainly has a tall head.
You Moonmen got your papers ready?
We don't need any, Rocky.
Everybody needs papers to cross Pottsylvania border. Lots and lots of papers.
Not us.
Why not you?
'Cause we're not in Pottsylvania.
You're not?
No, we're across the border.
Hey, you couldn't do that.
But we just did.
Well, maybe you did, but your friends stay here permanent.
And the angry sentry raised his rifle and pointed it directly at our heroes. Don't miss our next episode, The Boundary Bounders, or Some Like It Shot.